Hello, and welcome to Sleep Stories with the Slumbering Seagull. These videos were made to help you sleep. So wherever you are, underneath the sun or underneath the stars, get relaxed and comfortable and let yourself drift away. The Wandering Warrior and the Sweet Dove. Chapter 3. Andrew passed all the entrance tests with good marks. He gradually improved his muscle memory, balance, and precision with his sword. Under the lieutenant's watchful eye, he learned to read his opponent's movements, anticipate attacks, and respond with swift and decisive counters, gaining valuable experience in real-world fighting scenarios. He loved stretching his limits and trying new things. The training was difficult, but Andrew was willing to give it all he had. Some of the army men thought he was well suited for being a soldier. Others felt he wouldn't be ready in time for the real fight. Andrew realized he was most likely on a time crunch, aware that Barnes' men could attack at any day now. Whenever he began to doubt himself, he remembered General Duru's words about the stars. He thought about the dove from time to time as well. He had not seen Olive since she revealed herself to him. Fortunately, Andrew would see Duru very often and came down to Pinecrest Ridge once in a while for dinner. He always made sure to play catch with John whenever he visited. John would go on and on about the friends he was making at school. He was happy to hear John sound so blissful. One morning, Andrew was notified that the king wanted to meet with him. King Haruto was looking over documents in his royal study room. Andrew was allowed in by the guards. He entered and bowed. "Good morning, sire." "Ah, good morning, Mr. Speckle, or should I call you Swiftlight Speckle?" greeted King Haruto. A Swiftlight was what the people of Afia called the basic soldiers. There was one other man in the room along with the king. "Thank you for meeting with me. This is Ulrim Swenton. He is my officer of covert operations." Andrew looked up and said hello. He stood up from where he had been bowing. Officer Swinton shook hands with Andrew. "Now what I'm about to say is top secret. Not a word can leave this room. Is that understood, Andrew?" Andrew was confused but nodded in agreement. "Yes, sire." "I need you to go with Officer Swinton and send word to our ally, King Narman of Yorian. King Narman has not answered my letters requesting his aid in our kingdom's defense. Go to Yorian and get his answer, be it yes or no, and report back to me as soon as you return. I have guarantees from 2 other kingdoms, but Yorian is known for its powerful forces and brilliant battle tactics. Their military numbers are equal to the other 2 kingdoms and our own combined, perhaps even more. Barnes would be overwhelmed and his defeat would be definite." Andrew bowed his head again, saying, "Yes, sire, I I understand, and I am honored that you would consider me for such an important mission. I must respectfully ask, sire, why not choose a more qualified person for this assignment? At this, Officer Swinton spoke up. You have shown much promise with your training thus far, and the fact that you don't appear like one of our regular big rugged soldiers, to be direct. No offense to you, Swiftlight Speckle. Andrew continued to listen quietly, unbothered. Your appearance allows you to pass as a common traveling tradesman looking to sell spices or clothes across multiple regions. Are you catching on? Andrew nodded. That way we don't draw too much attention to ourselves. You want us to go out in disguise, so there's less of a chance of us being ambushed by Barnes' henchmen. All right, I'll do it. They discussed all the details, and everything was arranged. Andrew packed to leave the next morning. In case Turo became overly concerned, he left a note saying, "Don't worry, I'll be back soon." The journey was long, but not unbearable. Urian was a kingdom that Andrew had never laid eyes upon. Officer Swinton was good company. He shared many stories of past missions he had been assigned to and in charge of. He was careful not to divulge anything delicate. Regardless, his stories were thrilling and insightful. When they reached the gates to the kingdom, they saw numerous guards out, holding their ground, ready to strike at any slight resemblance of trouble. Andrew and Officer Swinton quickly displayed the king's seal on their identification certificates. The guards seemed hesitant, yet, nevertheless, gestured them in. Eventually, they walked into the king's throne room. It was clear the people of Urian were people of combat. This throne room had much darker tones and was less inviting than the throne room of King Haruto. King Narman glared at Andrew and Officer Swinton. "Why have you come?" "A letter was sent to you from King Haruto requesting military aid and defense against Barand and his army," Officer Swinton declared delicately. He could sense the tension in the room. The king calculated to himself for a moment. "King Haruto is a good man, and I owe him much for the food he generously supplied to us during a famine we experienced years ago." He smirked. "We're fighters, not farmers." "I received his letter. I didn't mean to keep silent. I have had a lot to deal with lately. My sincere apologies. Unfortunately, I can only spare 1/3 of my men. We have already dispersed our resources between us and the land of Hest, where my sister reigns as queen." Andrew and Officer Swinton shared looks of uncertainty. "Anything you can do would mean a great deal to our king and our kingdom," Officer Swinton replied, while giving a respectful bow. "We may need more help than that," Andrew blurted out, feeling the pressure of the weight of the situation. Little one, lucky for you, I'm in a good mood today. I don't make my decisions lightly. I realize that if your kingdom goes down, it will only make Baran that much stronger, and my kingdom would have a large portion of its food and water supply cut out from us. Nonetheless, I cannot leave my defense here weak. And my sister, King Norman darted his eyes as he felt the ache of loss. Suddenly he unveiled his rough, cold demeanor and allowed the distress to be displayed on his face. My sister, her husband, King Leo, is gone, perhaps forever. Ensure your kingdom keeps a close eye on King Haruto. Baron's men kidnapped King Leo in an attempt to take over. Andrew and Officer Swinton's eyes grew wide at this tragic news. My nephew is a year too young to be permitted to rule. I'm doing all I can to protect them while they regain some sense of order. 1/3 of my army is the best I can do. Take it or leave it, said King Narmond with frustration and fatigue in his voice. We are sorry to hear of these events. Yes, of course, under the authority of King Haruto, we will take this offer. Thank you, sire, said Officer Swinton. He then scolded Andrew for speaking out of turn before the king. Andrew apologized to them both. King Narmond had allowed them to leave in peace. The military force was promised to arrive at Afia by the end of the week. They relayed all the information to King Haruto as soon as they returned. Andrew returned to his room and noticed that his note was no longer on his bed, but now laid on his desk. Turo must have been in searching for him. Andrew trained hard. He pushed aside any official reunion with Turo, feeling he had to use all his time elevating his skills. They finally saw each other in a meeting and exchanged short glances. Turo understood that it was time to give Andrew more space so he could place his focus on his training. 1/3 of King Narmon's army arrived on time as promised. King Haruto sent word to Andrew to meet with him again. Andrew, Officer Swinton, and the king met together in the king's study. I am told you did well on your assignment with Officer Swinton, Andrew. Thank you for serving this kingdom to the best of your ability. Thank you, but honestly, I still have a hard time holding my tongue, sire, said Andrew. The king nodded with a smile. I know. You're a fiery young man. I believe you will learn to direct that fire to your advantage. Andrew nodded. Yes, sire. Officer Swinton had a slight smile on his face as well. I have another favor to ask of you, Andrew, Officer Swinton explained. We need you to go undercover again, but this time as King Hiroto. Wait, what? Yes, the king added. I must go to one more kingdom to ask for aid, the king of Windbell. I will go dressed as a merchant, as you did. Officer Swinton will stay here with you, and I will go with one of my spies. If you accept this new assignment, you will stay here and pretend to be me until I return. I will make a decree that for the next week, I am not to be disturbed by anyone except a small group of faithful servants who will be informed of this temporary switcheroo. Andrew was stunned. You want me to pretend to be you, sire? Andrew would have rather gone on the mission to reach out to the other kingdom. What if you get attacked during your travel to this other kingdom? How do you know you'll be safe? What if this other kingdom has already fallen? The king sighed. My son is well equipped to rule in my place if he must sooner than later. Also, I have prayed and fasted ever since you returned from Urian. I have been given clear confirmation about this, and I must go, Andrew. Wow, Andrew thought to himself. I wish I had that much faith. It's going to be okay, said Olive, though she was nowhere in sight. Andrew was not expecting to hear the voice of the dove. What? The king and the officer were confused for a moment. Andrew, I know in my heart that I must go do this myself. If you decide not to participate, that's fine. Just... Andrew spoke up. Sire, I will do all you have asked of me. Andrew bowed again. I just don't want to let you down, sire, said Andrew. Look, the king showed Andrew his hands cupped in front of him. Neither of our hands were meant to carry the whole world. He looked up towards the ceiling. We need to put this situation in bigger hands than our own, Andrew. Andrew nodded. Yes, sire. They went over every element they could think of, and the plan was set in motion. Every picture and every painting of the king was taken down and replaced by other artifacts and artwork. 3 servants and the top guard force were notified of the plan and sworn to secrecy. Andrew left another note on his bed saying, I miss you, and I love you all. I'll be back soon.